Welcome, listeners, to yet another episode of 100% Sale of Journalism Ethics here with me, Kaushal Bhatia.
And Shailesh.
For all the first time listeners, here's how it'll go. Sailesh and myself have selected a few stories from certain weeks that have taken place or developed in the past week and give our 2 cents on the same. In the first minute, we have to narrate the story in as much detail as possible, and the following few minutes is open for group discussion. But before I begin, I have a special surprise guest here with me, which I'm sure even Sailesh doesn't know about. He'll share a few words before we begin. Please give a round of applause to Mr. किसके पास बचपन. भाई, मेरा बचपन किसके पास है भाई. Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing those words. If you like that, do comment below, and if you didn't like that, then you will surely enjoy the rest of the podcast. Now, without wasting any more of your time, here's the first beat, national news,
Yes.
which will be taken by me.
Yes.
And the story is from India Today. The byline is credited to. Okay, there's no credit. There's no journalist who's
Mhm.
taken this byline. But here's the headline: 100 girls led by 14-year-olds seek license to use firearms in self-defense. Amid the rising crime against women, a group of girls sought official permission to use firearms in their self-defense in Gujarat's Rajkot. On Monday, 100 girls led by 14-year-old Mithal Keshubhai Parmar reached Rajkot collector's office and applied for license to use arms in self-defense. According to a report by Dainik Bhaskar, Mithal Parmar said if lockdown and demonetization can happen in a day, why can't a law be made to punish criminals in a day? We want to tell the governor, the chief
Mm.
minister, the prime minister that if demonetization can happen in one day, lockdown can be done in one day, then why can't a law be made to punish the wrongdoers on the same day? Such a law should be made, the report mentioned her as saying. He said crimes against women are now being committed in broad daylight. It seems like there is no law and order. You have to protect your honor yourself. The government is not going to do anything. Mittal added that if the government does not provide licenses to women, then it should take their responsibility.
Yeah.
Now, this is a very short report,
Yeah.
but I've also linked another story or another particular article,
Hmm.
which is from indiaspend.com, which is basically a data-centric non-profit journalistic website which gives a lot of uh, what do you call that empirical data supported by empirical data these certain things that they research
Yeah.
and that in that there is the credit is the byline is credited to a woman Devyani Srivastava,
Okay.
and here's the headline of that: rape cases against scheduled caste women rose 37% in last 4 years. Now, the article basically talks about, by looking at the numbers from Crime in India 2019 report and other such reports, about how the crime against women, whether it's sexual assault, whether it's rape, or whether it's any sort of uh, such heinous crime, and how it's increased in the last 4 years.
Huh.
And you can see how both of these articles are connected. The 100 girls led by this 14-year-old, I think, make a great point. I mean, not a point as in saying that using of firearms will do them any good, but
Correct.
I think it talks a lot about the frustration that women have, right?
Hmm.
I mean,
Correct.
India has become so, I mean, its progress has developed a lot, and we always talk about the great things that we've achieved. A lot
Hmm.
of things have been digitalized and all that, and yet there are still a lot of part of the rural India which
Hmm.
faces a lot of these. I think it's fair to say medieval type of setting where there is might is great or might is right kind of a behavior where dominant caste kind of you know they or whichever caste is in
Correct.
majority in that area will kind of do some sort of gundaism, if I may.
Hmm. Correct.
So what is your take on this, Sailesh?
Um, I think they didn't really think they would be given those like gun licenses, but then it was more like to grab headline and try to put a point forward. It was no, I don't know if it
Hmm.
was meant to really allow those like those women actually wanted to carry weapons, but what they were trying to do is kind of uh, bring focus to what is happening, the sexual violence that takes place against women. So I think it's a unique way of putting the point forward. And one good argument that they put forward is if things like demonetization and many other things that the government has taken a decision on, and given that the government is a parliamentary system and the whole executive decision making is not a very common thing. I think what they are trying to their message the message that they are trying to convey is valid enough to ask for
Hmm.
such a thing. But I
Yeah,
don't
and
know to
also,
what extent.
yes.
Huh. No, I'm saying I don't
So,
know to what extent carrying weapons with them would actually deter such crimes. But then I think their whole point of asking the government to act is a very valid
I think
demand.
this is also very much like mutually assured destruction kind of. It's a deterrent more than them actually wanting to
Correct,
use it. So I
correct.
feel
I
that,
agree.
and I don't know because Rajkot, I feel it's fairly developed. I feel, but it's still in Gujarat, and it's not one of those cities or towns that you hear about a lot in terms of national news and stuff. But I would say that
True.
the frustration in these areas that women have, I mean, we won't be
Yeah.
able to understand that obviously. First of all, because they are women, and secondly, because they are from a place which we cannot relate to. And as you know, in India, there are such different kind of like Mumbai would be much more different than Nashik.
Hmm.
And I'm using two cities which are in Maharashtra itself, so you kind of get the understanding. And then
Yeah.
similarly, a place in Goa itself, like cities and towns in Goa itself, would be somewhat
Hmm.
different, but similar as well. So I think the frustration that they might have is very real, and I just feel whoever is the person who's articulated it, Mithal Keshubhai Parmar, she's articulated
Hmm.
brilliantly because that's a fair argument to put forward, especially with the
I
Hathras
agree.
case that has come up, and we don't know what's going on there because like there are multiple reports that contradict each other, and in such cases, I feel you never know, even if justice is served, if actual justice is
Hmm.
served, you never
Correct.
know that because you already have such contradictory views. So there will always people always feel like justice is not served. And I don't know. I guess the fact that you said that it is more about highlighting the you know
Yeah.
bleak case or bleak situation that
Hmm.
women face in India is what she might want to highlight, or maybe the frustration must be
Correct.
real. But let's see what this particular thing will develop into and what action they take.
Correct. No, and one more thing is when incidents like Hathras happen, only those cases get the focus, and then there is a realization, okay, things are bad now. But then, same thing we witnessed when the Nirbhaya case happened, and everybody thought maybe this is a watershed moment when everything will change, things won't be
Yeah.
the same. But then, Hathras did happen in 2020, and this is at a time which the government that is in power currently had criticized the previous government a lot on that case. And if that is still happening where the government which criticized, like for example BJP, not example, the fact is that BJP criticized and kind of got a lot of political mileage through Nirbhaya case in Delhi,
Hmm.
in the national parliamentary elections as well. But then now majority of the MLAs, MPs are from BJP in UP. The state assembly has absolute majority under Yogi Adityanath, that is BJP. So having the government in center also from BJP, it's a shameful thing that such a thing has happened. And at a time when CM
Yeah.
Yogi Adityanath is touting his uh, record against crime, and his free hand to the police to take action against criminals, such a thing would happen. It shows that
Hmm.
having one odd case and paying attention to it for a while, it doesn't really help. Consistent, like how you pointed out that the rapes against scheduled caste women have grown 37%, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those
37%
things,
according to India's census.
mm,
Yeah.
those are the issues that the local politicians need to bring up and talk. And like you said, the girls, the report about the girls asking for a license is a very short report. Itself gives you an idea how much
Yeah,
attention it must have got. So
yeah. I
unfortunate.
think that's true. But on a last note, before we go to the next beat, I just want your take on this. Is that, let's say, even if they improve law and order and all, there's this whole sense of patriarchy that exists very strongly in the north of India,
Hmm.
especially.
I
And
think
this
all over the
patriarchy
country.
literally doesn't see women as having any kind of, I don't know all over the country, but I know for a fact in north of India it exists to a great
Huh.
extent, to a very, crippling effect, which just doesn't allow them to get any type of freedom. So I feel,
Hmm.
what is, how do we solve that? Is there a way you can solve it or what?
I think what happens very often is the focus. Whenever anything happens, the girl is given a choice whether she wants to pursue the case, whether she wants to go through all the stigma that will come related to the case and everything. But my question is, the people who are involved, to what extent do they get punished? When the Hyderabad
Hmm.
rape case happened recently last year, rather this
Yeah.
year, the accused were taken out and enrolled to place. But did that deter any accused from committing rape? Now this was a immediate justice. Now there is a whole debate whether they were to what extent was it legally a good thing or a bad thing. But immediate
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
executions and long executions, which happened in Nirbhaya's case, neither of those deterred rapes in the country. So one thing what these guys can look forward to is a legal system which uh, focuses on deterrence through punishment and a good implementation of punishment. There is a whole system that needs to come up
Hmm.
where the accused are punished in such a way that other people may think twice before doing that. And secondly, what happens is, like you said, patriarchy exists in society. So people have this mindset of sometime many a times considering women below them. So in that
Yeah.
case, I think this mindset needs to change during school, because school is a level playing
Yeah,
field.
yeah.
The girls and the boys, and many a times the girls excel much more than boys. So that's where it needs to be instilled in kids that men and women are equal. There is no
Yeah, I think
distinction.
that's a very good point that you made. I think they can identify also where in whose houses that this patriarchy is very toxic. Because teachers come to know these things from the way students are acting, how scared
Even
they are, and they can find these things out. And I think they should
hmm,
be given that kind of, not power, but they should report it to some senior authority who can then make sure that it's not that this person or this girl child is not being you know unfairly restricted.
same thing, like for example, Beti Bachao Beti Padhao Abhiyan is there, and these focus on the narrative is on saving the girl child and all that. But there also needs to be a narrative where the guys are educated on this, what it means. But when you say Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, what it actually, like for example, Narendra Modi during his Independence Day speech in 2015, if I'm not wrong, said, families ask women where do they go, but why doesn't anyone ask their sons where do they go? So that
Hmm.
narrative needs
Right.
to build up where the guys are held responsible and brought to focus.
Right. Very true. I think on that note, we can move on to the next beat, which is national news politics, and
Hmm.
that'll be taken up by you anytime you're ready, sir.
Yeah. So the story that I chose for this particular week is Haryana MLA is allowed to use assembly flag on vehicle for identification. So some of you may be aware that about 2-3 years ago, the central government had passed the order saying that no official political vehicles of politicians will have the red beacon that used to be so coveted in the past and used to be a symbol of
Right.
being VIPs, or being this thing, what do you call that, a way of distinguishing
Uh,
them from the ordinary people. So what the uh, Haryana government has done is, so the Vidhan Sabha logo will be displayed on a flag, and that flag can be attached to a vehicle, and that will be used to distinguish the MLAs in the assembly from ordinary cars, so that they don't face any hurdles while traveling. And very often, one of the reasons they gave was they have to prove their identity at a toll plaza, which is a which takes which which takes delays their travels and all. So that is a story that's come. And the logo, interestingly, is of Lord Krishna leading a chariot, like they've shown in Bhagavad Gita and all that. So, what do you think of the story, Kaushal?
Oh, I just, yeah, that's very okay. I opened the article, and
Hmm.
what you're talking about is that VIP culture that Modi had wanted to get rid of.
Hmm.
The red, the large theme cars and all.
Well,
They said that everyone,
hmm.
you are a
Right.
government, you're the people's servant. Like if you're elected by the people, you're there to serve the people. So there shouldn't be a kind of, like you are above them and all. That was
Hmm.
the reason why they wanted to get rid of it, and they did. And this
Hmm.
I'm reading this, which is quite Lord Krishna's chariot and Bhagavad Gita.
Hmm.
I don't know what to say about this. I feel that's not the Vidhan Sabha flag, right?
No, they are saying that logo, Vidhan Sabha logo, can be put on a flag and used as a identification to show that they are the MLAs in the assembly, so that they don't get
Okay.
stopped. It's alternative for the red light. So once they start using it, then they'll get exemptions from certain things. For example, in at toll plazas and all, earlier they had to prove their identity. There was nothing to else to distinguish. But once they put the flag, the toll plazas will automatically have an understanding that MLA is traveling in the car. And when the MLA is not traveling in the car, they'll have to cover it, like normally how you see VVIP cars in India, official cars, they
Correct,
have the
correct.
Indian flag, but when there is no official, they cover it with a black pouch or a white pouch. So
Yeah, they have a cover
that's
for
what
it,
they are.
right?
Hmm.
So what is this Lord Krishna's chariot and Bhagavad Gita at event?
No, the Manohar Lal Khattar unveiled a portrait of Lord Krishna's chariot and Bhagavad Gita at an event. And oh, I may have mistaken. Sorry. So Vidhan Sabha logo is separate, and this was done. The flag was unveiled during the event.
Okay, okay,
Hmm.
okay, okay. So this is a different. So this is a no
Oh
wait.
yeah, yeah. Sorry,
No,
that's my bad.
okay, okay. No worries, no worries. We are human. This proves to you that 100% sale of journalism ethics makes sure that we don't make any mistakes, so that you all get the right information. So now
Correct,
let's
correct.
correct this. What you said was correct that Haryana MLAs are going to be allowed to use the assembly flag on the vehicle for identification for the fact that they don't have to
Assembly
wait in line
logo.
at toll plazas. Assembly logo, right? And this a separate thing is that Chief Minister Manohar Lal Khattar, he
Ha ha.
also unveiled a portrait of Lord Krishna's chariot and Bhagavad Gita at the
Yeah,
event
yeah,
where
yeah,
this
yeah, yeah.
particular thing was announced. So I
Correct.
feel, I mean, I don't know, just because it's become a little more inconvenient, they are using it as an excuse to get that VIP culture back. Now we'll have to see to what extent. Like obviously we won't come to know because it's in Haryana. But let's see if
Correct.
there are any reports that come out in the future where they have used it when it was not really required. I think that is what we have to wait for. But
Hmm.
other than that, I get it. I think it just makes things easier for also the toll plaza people because it's not like they
Correct.
are. So I feel yeah, it makes sense. I guess if it's making everyone's life a little bit easier, but if it's
Hmm.
misused, then it's a bad thing.
Correct.
Yeah. So I guess on that note, on that very confusing note, but then clearing out the whole point note, we are going to
Yeah.
move on to the next beat, which is business,
Hmm.
and that is going to be taken up by me. This story
Correct.
is from the Mint, and the Byline is credited to Mr. Ravi Prakash Kumar. Here's the headline.
Hmm.
8 Indian beaches get prestigious Blue Flag certification. Eight
Hmm.
beaches in India have been awarded the prestigious Blue Flag certification. The Blue Flag certification is a globally recognized eco label accorded by the Foundation for Environment Education, Denmark, based on 33 stringent criteria under four major heads, that is environmental education and information, bathing water quality, environment management and
Okay.
conservation, and safety and services at the beach. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Sunday
Okay.
described certification for 8 Indian beaches as a wonderful feat and said it showcases the importance India attaches to protecting such spots and furthering sustainable development. Now I'm just going to list down these beaches for you. The
Okay.
first one in the list is Shivrajpur Beach in Gujarat, which is just 15 minutes north of the Rukmani temple. The long pristine beach stretches near the
Hmm.
Shivrajpur village between a lighthouse and a rocky shoreline.
Okay.
The second one listed is Ghogla in Diu. Now,
Hmm.
Diu, Daman, and Goa were a part of the Portuguese colonies.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of Portuguese architecture and all that still remains there. The third
Hmm.
and fourth in the list is Kasar God and Padubidri in Karnataka. I'm sorry if I
Hmm.
got the name wrong
Hmm.
or pronounced it wrong. The fifth is Kapad in
Uh,
Kerala. Kapad beach has
okay.
historically played an important role in the history of Kerala. On these shores, over 500 years ago in 1498, 170 men led by Vasco da Gama first stepped into Kerala. And then there is Rushikonda in Andhra Pradesh, Golden. So there is this Golden in Odisha. I don't know what else is there. There's this Golden. I think there's a beach called Golden apparently in Odisha.
Hmm.
And then there is Radhanagar in Andaman and Nicobar Islands, which is the eighth particular one. Now, a blue flag beach is an ecotourism model endeavoring to provide the tourists or beachgoers clean, hygienic bathing water facilities, safe and healthy environment, and sustainable development of the area. And none
Hmm.
of these beaches are in Goa. I want to just point out that none of the
Yeah.
beaches are in Goa. None of the beaches are. I would really, when I read the headline in the beginning, I thought there would be one beach in Goa. I thought there would be Patra there, or there'll be something in south.
Hmm.
They would have
E- e-
mentioned one
even
of them.
I was surprised.
But I feel this is a great thing. I think they applied for this, and we got eight. Obviously, India is a huge place. There were various, a lot of all kinds of geographic locations exist in this country.
Hmm.
And the fact that we
Correct.
got eight beaches with the blue flag certification is going to be great for tourism. It's going to be a great, way of bringing in a lot of people from around the world to check out these places. And not only that, even the indigenous people, even
Hmm.
the local domestic tourists who did not know about these beaches. Because tell me, out of the beaches I named, which one do you know?
No, some of the names like Kasargod and all you've heard, but then I don't know if
No, that is
these
a
were
different one.
prominently
Kasargod is
tourist
in
locations.
Kerala. Kasargod is in Kerala. This one is a different one. It's called Kasargod in and Padubidri in Karnataka. So it's not Kasargod.
Hmm.
It's
No,
not
no,
Kerala
that
Kasargod. It's Kasargod.
Kasargod. Oh, okay. So yeah,
Yeah.
I've not heard any of those names.
So that's a great thing. I feel in terms of what this will do. That's all I have to say. I feel this is great news beyond that. And the other thing I want to
No,
say is that I'm surprised that none of them are from Goa.
I mean, I understand why they are not from Goa because there's a lot of commercialization that took place here. So I don't know if Goa maybe didn't make it to one or the other criteria. So probably that's why
Hmm.
they were left out. But other than that, one thing, when this news broke and the pictures that were used to show them, they were some really good, like those particular beaches are quite uh, exotic looking. I mean, blue waters and then white sands, and I was very surprised. If people do get a chance through this to visit them, then definitely yes. But I hope they don't commercialize it a lot, because then the beauty gets
Yeah,
spoiled because of it.
I
But
think
I'm
they
not
should
surprised.
maintain it for what. Yeah, yeah, continue please.
No, no, I'm just saying, I'm not surprised. I'm surprised and at the same time not surprised to know that Goa didn't make the cut on, or any beach in Goa didn't make the cut.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I understand what you're saying, so I wouldn't expect any of the north beaches at all, to be honest.
Hmm.
But I do
Hmm.
do think I do did think that there would be one from the south, where especially the one that has the Ridley turtles that come in, which is in the south. I forgot
Galji
the name.
Baga.
Galgibag, yeah,
Galji
and
Baga.
there is Galgibag, am sorry. And there's also Patra Bay, which is also there in
Hmm.
the south, which is also quite good. But I think this is good news. Hopefully they maintain this.
Yeah,
They
true.
maintain the pristineness of these beaches. And on that note, if you have nothing more to add, should we move on to the next beach?
Sure, sure.
Okay. So on that note, we move on to the next beat, which is international,
Hmm.
and that will be taken up by you anytime you're ready, sir.
So the particular story for this beat is, Trump tweet gave Taliban upper hand in negotiations. Now, this statement was made by once upon a time CEO of Afghanistan, Abdullah Abdullah. He's currently the head of Afghanistan's High Council for National Reconciliation, which is directly negotiating with Taliban right now in Qatar, or rather Qatar's capital Doha, and trying to reach a peace deal with the Taliban. And what was referring to is Trump just a few days back, his national security advisor Robert O'Brien, he announced that the US would be cutting its troops by around 2,500 to 3,000 in Afghanistan. But just a few hours after that, Trump tweeted that he expects all of the American troops to be home by Christmas. Now, what happened is, currently, because the negotiations are going on, and for Taliban, it has always been they just wanted to basically persevere against the US forces. So, for them, the idea was that US is eventually going to leave. We just have to sustain us or survive till the US leaves. So, what Abdullah is saying is, already by announcing a troop withdrawal and signing a peace deal with uh, Taliban in February.
Taliban.
Uh,
No, no, I said Taliban at the same time. Sorry, continue.
yeah, signing a peace deal with Taliban in February and setting a timeline to, withdraw the troops. What is happening in this case is, you've already made clear that you're going to leave. So you've already given a upper hand to Taliban when you're negotiating with the Afghan government. Then he says, because of the tweet that Trump made on 8th of October, he says it's given more leverage to Taliban, because he it's become clear that he wants to leave no matter what. Like, he wants to bring the US troops back, but the Afghan government will be left to deal with them. So if the Afghan government is
Okay, if I
not having
may,
any, huh,
so what I am saying is, if the Taliban are not agreeing by understanding that the US troops are going to go back sooner and all of them are going to go back by Christmas, so then they
hmm,
will only have to deal with the Afghan forces or maybe whatever of the NATO forces are there.
hmm,
I guess they were anyways not going to stay true to the deal. No? They wouldn't have agreed anyways if when the US troops would have gone, right? Wouldn't they go back to
hmm.
their earlier this thing? It's my take on this. I feel that if they
No,
are right now not agreeing, later on they might have agreed. They might have said, okay, so and so, yes, 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 whatever. And later on, if they feel that, okay, no, I think we can take over and all, then they would have taken over. And Trump wouldn't send the people back.
no, but you have to understand one thing, that even though there is no guarantee that the Taliban will agree to whatever it is, or rather follow whatever it is agreeing to right now with the Afghan government and all those things. But the question is, what happens in this particular negotiation they, what will you hold against them? For example, if you're negotiating on terms and you've given them too many advantages, and then tomorrow when you're going to say that okay, you agreed to this, then that particular thing will not exist legally. You understand? For
Hmm.
example, if the Taliban says no women can become government employees, then if they are
Yeah,
getting the
yeah,
leverage, they agree to it, then what will the Taliban, rather the Afghan government tomorrow hold against them? That you agreed to it? No, they'll say we never agreed to it. So that's the thing. So it weakens the position in
that's
negotiation.
true.
Huh?
But I feel that I remember when I was watching one of the interviews of Abdullah with the journalist from the print. I
Okay.
forgot her name, and he had mentioned the same thing that you're saying right now because the Taliban is totally against women having any kind of role. Like if
Correct.
in North India is patriarchal, they are patriarchal on steroids.
Yeah.
So I feel it's, that's true. That's a true thing that you've said. That's a yeah. I mean, I didn't think of that. And Trump is,
And
I think, he's just trigger. It's like a trigger in his hand. Having Twitter, him being like the head of
correct.
state of the most powerful country
Correct.
in the world, based on their military and alliances that they have, and the fact that all the
Hmm.
international institutions which mediate all the big talks of economics and whatnot is in their country. So I just feel that it is so reckless of him, but didn't you expect it?
No, that's expected, but at least like it's better to blame him now, because it's
Yeah, yeah.
important to say it now before people go to vote in the US. At the end of the day, people are going to make a decision based on how what his conduct of foreign policy is, because there, comparatively, foreign policy does play a major role in an election campaign.
Hmm. That's true. That's true.
But anyway, so
But
the point
I
is
doubt that
that
that is going to affect a lot of the votes that are going to go to him. Already, I feel
no.
it's a very. But anyways, I'm deviating. Continue, please.
No, your point is correct. The core base of Trump may not be vote on based on what is foreign policy, but then given America's role in the world, it does matter in the electoral
Hmm.
system. But
Yeah.
anyways, I think it's important. It was a good thing this fellow pointed it out, and I hope like and what happens is eventually, even if the Taliban do take over the country, which I doubt, because there will always be pockets of resistance. So let's hope that a
I
good
think
deal
we
comes
also
out of
talked
the
about.
negotiations.
Yeah, yeah. And
No,
just
no,
before
go
when I
ahead.
put my last point forward, is that
Hmm.
the last time also we had taken up a story that was related to Afghanistan. I don't remember what exactly, but and I had told
Hmm.
you this not last time. I don't know. It was a few podcasts earlier, episodes earlier.
Yeah.
It was that I said that it is impossible for anyone to think that an outside force is going to help you stabilize your country, because
Hmm.
ultimately you
Correct.
have to deal with your people, right? And if many of your
Correct.
people are so volatile, you can't expect them to stay for so much more longer. I feel this is inevitable. At some point, this
True.
showdown had to happen. So whatever is
Hmm.
going
True.
to happen now, the fact that he said that, I personally feel that it is going to be a catalyst for whatever the local resistance towards the Taliban is going to be, or the Taliban is going to take over, and ultimately it's going to find the
Hmm.
balance of its own.
Hmm. True.
Yeah. So on that note, if I have your permission, we'll move on to the next beat.
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. Yeah.
Okay. So on that note, we'll move on to the next beat, which is sports, and that will be taken up by me. This particular story is from Deccan Herald. The
Hmm.
byline is credited to Press Trust of India, and here's the headline: Hockey India to conduct online coaching course. Hockey India on Friday announced that it will conduct the coaching education pathway level basic course online. This is the first time Hockey India has called for applications of aspiring coaches to apply through an open forum. Only 60 slots will be available for the online course. Candidates will be chosen through a first come first served basis, and minimum criteria to apply requires an interested applicant to have coached either a district,
Hmm.
school, or university hockey team for at least 3 years, or he or she should have played national level, all India university level for at least 3 years, a
Okay.
media release stated.
Okay.
The Hockey
Okay.
India Coaching Education Pathway, which was launched in March last year, is a simplified education structure that consists of a combination of web based modules and face to face interactive courses underpinned by a competency based assessment process, which helps the coaches in progressing to higher levels. Now,
Hmm.
on the just straight from the start, I'll just say I feel this is good. I feel this is great that they are starting, and these sports authorities which exist are starting to coach these coaches, and the
Correct.
lockdown basically whatever has, and they are adapting to this. And I hope that a lot more other authorities also do the same thing. And I know, one thing before you say something about this, I'll just say to all our listeners that we
Yeah.
do take up sports, but we never talk about sports matches and all. We normally talk about restructuring of the sports authorities and how these boards work and all in India. We normally talk about the politics of it, I've realized. But that's great. That's a good
True.
take on it as well. And with that, I feel this is a great thing. Online coaching of Hockey India is going to be good. Let other authorities also take this up, take inspiration from them. And yeah, what do you
True.
think, Shailesh?
I think
What do you think?
it's the first time. Yeah, I think it's the first time I'm hearing that these online classes will be held for the coaches, and I think it's a good thing because if this is available online, it saves a lot of time for these coaches particularly, and also it gives a real-time approach to their way of conducting it, or rather,
Hmm.
if there's something wrong they're doing, they can immediately, not wrong as such, if there's something they can do better, this would be an immediate thing rather than wait for them to go for
Hmm.
some get trained and come back and then implement those things. If these online things are two-way interactions, then they can maybe try out whatever they are learning and then eventually give a feedback on how that's playing out, and then eventually get, if there is something not happening according to the plan, then they can change strategies. So I think it's a good thing, real-time approach of sorts.
And I think also, what they should have also done it regional wise. Like, so they should have taken certain coaches from regions, like they should have called them or scouted them also. Like, because let's say Northeast, I don't know about it. Personally, I don't know. Probably there must be a lot of,
Hmm.
there must be a good hockey culture there also. But you know what I'm saying, right? I'm saying like
Okay.
from all the states, they
Yeah.
should have scouted a few
y-
people
y-
and should have
mhm.
encouraged them.
You're saying otherwise there is a danger of all the candidates coming from only one or two regions, maybe, or
Yeah,
being
like Haryana
concentrated
or
in one
Punjab.
area. Geography.
Yeah.
Understood. I mean,
So,
that's a very good point, but hello.
no, no, I was waiting for you to make a point, please.
Oh, no, no, no. I'm saying you made a very good point about it of trying to uh, have a wider geographical area participate.
Hmm. Yeah. So I guess this same thing can be taken up by other sport authorities or the governing bodies of different sports that exist in India. And I don't know how many of them have a coaching education pathway like Hockey India had just launched in March last
Sure.
year. They might have had a different thing before that, but I feel that would be great if a lot of these people take inspiration from this. And that's all I have to say. I feel really great.
I agree.
Okay, so on that note, we'll move on to the next beat, which is
Sure.
entertainment, and that will be taken up by you, Shailesh, whenever you are ready.
Um, to be honest, there's nothing. There's not according to me, rather, personal opinion. There's not a lot of weight to this track. There's a different reason I picked it up. The title is Karina Rap's Lal Singh Chadda Shoot. Thanks, Amir, for poignant
Hmm.
journey. So the reason I'm very excited to see what they make out of it. It's an official remake of Forrest Gump, and from what that movie was, I'm very much looking forward to this movie. So that's the only reason I picked up the story. There's nothing else I can add to it. Or
Oh, that is, I
what I
did
really,
not know that.
nor
I
am I
did not
interested to
know that
know.
was based on.
You didn't know that?
No, I did not.
Hello.
Hello?
So, interest. I I think the plot is very interesting because there are very few movies that are made in that style. I mean, you remember Gangs of Wasepur when the guy goes back and narrates the history of the area, the way he shows
Huh.
it happening. And you've watched Forrest Gump, and it shows pivotal moments in U.S. history during this fellow's lifetime. So now
Yeah,
imagine
yeah, yeah.
what moments they remember in India. For example, Indira Gandhi awarding a medal to a sports guy during
Oh, that
Asian
is
Games in
so
1983.
good.
And imagine those things being
Good
shown on the
point.
picture. Like that. I'm not saying those are the things. I'm just hoping it would be something similar to that.
No, actually, that is great that you brought this to my notice because I think for a while, I just got off Bollywood, so I didn't
Hmm.
really read up about anything. But first of all, I am a fan of Amir Khan because
And
he might make
yeah,
some movies which are very predictable, but he is a perfectionist. He's done a lot of great films, even if many of them are remakes also. Great films. And
hmm.
I would really, now the fact that you told me about this, and furthermore, you told me that they might have some really great, significant things that happened in the history of India. I am really looking
Correct.
forward to this. You're right.
Correct. Especially, for example, imagine Amir Khan playing the role of a army guy, and they show a scene backdrop where Amir Khan is participating in the 71 war, or something like that. Think of
Oh
those pivotal moments
man.
playing.
Oh, that's so good. Oh God.
Mm,
There's a lot that can be done. And one thing which also I just realized because I've typed this in the Google
yeah,
and I've realized that Vijay Sethupathi is a part of this particular cast. And I'll
yeah,
tell you
yeah,
who
yeah,
Vijay
yeah, yeah.
Sethupathi is if you don't know. You might know because I've shared my passion about
No,
South Indian cinema
no,
with you. And I think I've shared this one movie that I love of his, which is called Sud Kavum. And I'm
hmm.
sure I'm probably mispronouncing it, but it's a very brilliant movie, and I've seen plenty of Vijay Sethupathi movies. In fact, I'll just tell you a little bit more to add to his upcoming
Yeah, sure.
films. He is going to act as Muthaiya Muralidharan in his biopic 800.
800. Actually, one of the stories
Yeah.
I wanted to choose was that, but then it's not really a under the radar thing, so I didn't choose it. But I watched the trailer,
Yeah.
the teaser rather. It's amazing, and the look Vijay Sethupathi has gone for it. It's very realistic, to be honest.
Yo. It's Vijay Sethupathi as an actor. If I'll just name a few movies, and the people who are listening can go check them out. Super Deluxe is one of the latest
Hmm.
movies ever made. On Netflix. You can watch that. Sooth Kavum is good. One of his old
Okay.
movies is good. I don't know. Just type Vijay Sethupathi and see one of his old movies. Although there are some
Okay.
bad movies also he's done. His acting is great, but the script might not be great in some of them. But great. I love the story that you picked up. Thank you.
That's all.
Yeah. That's all I have to say.
Hello.
I'm really looking forward to it because I didn't know about this fact.
Okay. Even
Okay,
one of my friends was talking to me, and we were just thinking which role Vijay Sethupathi may be playing, and we are rather speculating he may play the role of the army captain of Forrest, or rather Tom Hanks in that particular movie, who goes, if you remember the script.
no, I know. I mean, I don't remember it so much because I saw it quite a while back.
Hmm.
But obviously, I remember, the iconic dialogues, life like a box of chocolate. And he's talking to that, black lady, and he's talking about how his great great grandfather used
Yeah,
to.
white costume. But anyways, so the point is that Vijay Sethupathi may play the role of Bubbles or Bubbas, who was a character in that movie. But let's see how it plays out. I hope they
Will
do
be great.
justice
Will
to
be
it.
great.
Hmm.
Definitely, we have to watch this one in the theater, hopefully.
Of course.
And on that note, we'll move on to the next beat, that is opinion of the week. That is
Hmm.
taken up by me, and the one that I've chosen this time is from the Telegraph. The
Hmm.
title is Old Anxieties Reflections on October 16th. It's written by Mr. T.C.A. Raghavan, who was the former
Okay.
High Commissioner to Pakistan, and he's basically written about. It'll be very difficult for me to actually narrate this, to be honest, because it's a very complicated particular
Okay.
opinion that he talks about, and it goes into British India. When the British used to rule over
Hmm.
India, they had their empire here, and how they tried to
Hmm.
divide, right, the first partition in 1905 of Bengal itself, and how that failed.
Hmm.
And he brings out different points of views. One is he talks about that maybe it was nationalism that basically did not allow them to
Hmm.
do that partition of Bengal. Then he also talks about that at that time in 1905, the Japan had they had defeated Russia, who was also an imperial power at
Russia.
that point, and that could have kind
Hmm.
of given the courage that India needed, saying that if an imperial power can be defeated by an Asian country,
Hmm.
we can do the
Hmm.
same thing, and several things that he mentioned. A few things to be
I
noted
think,
that I found was, sorry.
yeah. No, no, I think he was writing on the anniversary of the partition, 16th October
Yes,
1905.
yes, yes.
Hmm.
Anniversary
Any,
of the
you go.
partition on 16th October. No, correct. Thank you for bringing that to my notice. So on 16th October of 1905, British India was province of Bengal was formally promulgated the division of British Indian province of Bengal was formally promulgated on October 16, 1905, despite the political opposition to it in the country. And furthermore, as what I explained in the
Hmm.
starting, furthermore, he
Hmm.
gets into how George Curzon and his
Lord
basically how
Curzon.
he tried yes, yes, how he tried various tactics in order to create a buffer because they were scared of Russia coming into the land that they were ruling at the point.
Hmm.
He also talks about how when India and oh my god, I think I've lost it completely. But one of the main things that I've taken from this particular story is the securitization and desecuritization, and I'll explain what that means.
Hmm.
So there were several areas near the borders where the rule of British Empire ends. So basically, they have it till that point, and they had created several provinces and several frontiers in order to protect it as a buffer to India, which they found as a prized possession because of it being rich in resources and several other things.
Hmm.
And they also talk about how after post 1947, India and Pakistan being partitioned, them having their own governments and whatnot, Pakistan continued to maintain the security posts and the basically. Can you help me out here, Sailesh?
Ah, okay. No, what they were saying is a lot of the things that was set in place to create a sense of security for the empire. For example, the Northwest Frontier Province, which has become Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Province in Pakistan right now. It was a no man's land of sorts, which was not governed by any entity as such, but it was meant as a buffer. And there were a lot of borders that were drawn at that time, which became the modern borders of the country. But they were more strategic in nature. So when they talk about securitization, they particularly mean that to provide security for the inland areas. And what the particular writer argues is Pakistan for a while may have forgotten it, but then it did follow it. After 1947, they continued to follow that policy, and it seemed like their approach of following it was validated when Soviet invasion of Afghanistan took place, and the revolution in Iran took place in 1979, when they didn't they became more unpredictable. Before that, at least when the Shah was there, they were predictable, they were in an alliance together with the US, Pakistan, Iran, and neighboring other countries. So in that context, he's trying to say the securitization, whatever the steps were taken, they were followed by Pakistan. In hindsight, seemed like a good idea. And at the
Hmm.
same time, what he's talking about desecuritization, like certain areas like Bengal and all, where it's not necessary to rather separate. And what he's saying is uh, this led to a Muslim separatist idea being
Right, right,
born
definitely.
because of this
Yeah,
partition in this.
I'll continue from there if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
like you said that Pakistan maintains that policy of protecting their borders and creating that buffer, being really strong militarily in these border areas, and making sure that there is no uh, inflow of any type of trouble that would destabilize their government or their administration at any point, while India, on in comparative comparison to that, dropped
hmm,
the ball sort of 2 decades post 1947, where they did
hmm,
not take it as a very serious thing. They did not pay a lot of attention to the strategies that the British Empire had set initially to basically make sure that nothing happens to their empire, and that could also be the reason for China being easily allowed to come into and do incursions into Arunachal Pradesh or Ladakh right now.
hmm,
And now I
hmm.
guess we are changing the strategy a little bit more, and we are tightening up the screws in the border areas, and there's a lot more that is happening now. But
Hmm.
one more thing I'll talk about this particular opinion piece, and you've also read it because I needed your help to understand a
Okay.
lot of it because there's a lot of technicality in this which you understand much better. It is
uh,
that he has gone into so much. He's what can I say? He's looked at so many different point of views and so many different things he's opened up. I feel in this particular article where you can talk about Afghanistan, you can
yeah.
talk about Pakistan, you can talk about Bangladesh, you can talk about a lot of things that he's packed into this particular article,
True.
and I feel it's great for anyone who wants to read. But I will just warn you that it's going to be a little difficult to understand, so you might need to read it twice. But I think it's
True.
worth it. I think it's a good read. It's a good understanding of the where the states currently are, and you just get a good point of view. Silas, you
True.
can give your comment on
So I think the interesting thing is not many people actually the partition that happened with Pakistan is a lot of people know about it very well. But the partition, Bengal partition, not so much, I feel, because other than studying about it in history, it's not talked about much because we don't have a problem with Bangladesh in any particular way currently. But then to think this particular event led to so many things like a butterfly effect that eventually ended up
this.
in a partition of the subcontinent. I think it's and the point he started from ended somewhere else, and so many things were discussed that, like you said, people may need 2 reads to get it. Like we took three, four
Yeah,
reads, but the point is, uh, it gives a
yeah.
interesting perspective for people who like politics and are interested in the history of the subcontinent and all. So I think it's an interesting thing, and I didn't know until today that the Bengal partition took place in on 16th October. So that's another thing you get to learn.
Yeah, no, that is, it was, I didn't know that the Bengal partition was even promulgated in 1905.
Uh,
But the fact of the matter I want to say before I move on to the next beat is that Sailesh, to all our listeners, Sailesh is a very good person who can kind of, take a very complicated
no,
subject and he can simplify it for you.
let's
Maybe it
not.
doesn't, it's not on the first go. I get it. No, we'll move on to the next beat. Please let me finish. But let me just
Okay.
say that it is just, I wanted to point this out. This is my personal wish that I wanted to do. And with that, see, obviously it's not going to be perfect, but I know, like in many cases, and I can put my money where my mouth is that
Uh,
you're good at this. You're really good at explaining things, and I'm glad. So, anyways, we'll move on to the next and final beat of this particular episode. That is interview of the week, and that will be taken up by you, Sailesh,
hmm.
anytime you're ready.
Uh, this particular interview I took in the context of BR Assembly elections is of LJP President, Lok Janshakti Party President, National President Chirag Paswan.
Hmm.
And I think, I'm not sure if it's definitely one of the first interviews he's given since his father's passing recently. Ramvilas
Right.
Paswan, who was the union minister in the BJP-led government. And so in this particular interview, I just found it interesting because so much is happening in BR right now, and it's basically the political, what you call, there's a division in politics over there right now. So there are
Hmm.
allegations that BJP is trying to finished Nitish Kumar led JDU, and they're using LJP as a pawn, whereas Chirag Paswan is consistently arguing against it. And in the interview, also, he disapproves of that idea, saying that we always wanted to expand in the state. And when asked about whether he'll be more interested in the state or national politics, because his father was more interested in the national politics, he
Correct.
said that yes, definitely I will focus more on the state. And I think to an extent he is aspirational, like his father, to do something
Hmm.
uh, unexpected and do something that would benefit the party and his politics. So I think it's interesting read for anyone who wants to know more. And in one
Oh,
of the
it's a
questions,
written
when
interview.
it's a written interview, it's published on the Indian Express, and the writer is Santosh Singh.
Okay.
So the interview came out today. So anybody who's remotely interested in understanding what's happening in BR and just to get an idea of what uh, Chirag Paswan's role is, and he's giving his perspective. So you may read a lot of news about him and then get his perspective on things. But to an
Yeah.
extent, whatever the reports are of BJP trying to finish JDU while firing the gun from LJP's shoulder, it seems very plausible.
Hmm.
And also, one thing I would like to say is there's a related article written on Indian Express. It's titled Chirag Paswan, his father's son. So in that they talk about Chirag Paswan and Ramvilas Paswan's dynamic, and some of the things that he gets credit for in that particular piece is that in 2014 it was him who pushed his late father to switch to NDA
Join
from
BJP.
UPA.
Hmm.
Hmm. So
Right.
I think anyone who's interested should go through it. And one thing I would like to ask you, Kaushal, in particular, is this whole thing about it being very obvious of what's BJP doing in Bihar.
Hmm.
How do you think the voters may perceive it? And do you think, given that this thing has been leaked and many people know about it, of what's happening, will people take Chirag Paswan seriously, given that he's a dynast and he's still a young
Yeah,
leader?
well, I think Chirag Paswan's reputation comparatively to Tejasvi Yadav, who's also Dynast,
Hmm.
is much
Hmm.
better. Like, that is
Hmm.
my perspective of it. I don't know, I could be wrong because I'm sitting here in Mumbai and saying these things. But that
Lucky
is
for
one
you.
thing. Yeah. But also, I would like to point out is Shekhar Gupta had done this thing, what he does. He
Cut the
does this
clutter.
on Prince, cut the clutter. And he had talked
Hmm.
about
Cut the
Ramvilas
clutter.
Paswan after he had passed.
Yeah, yeah.
And he had talked about how he has never not been a union minister. He has always held a portfolio in the cabinet
True.
by either joining hands with
True.
BJP or Congress or whoever's in power. And it's always one of the two.
Yeah, third
And
front. Wherever Ram Khan has consistently been in power since in the 1990s, if I'm not wrong.
yeah, and it's like they always win. LJP has
Hmm.
always kind of, been that even in the last elections, I remember they had this commentary was going on where whoever LJP joins is sure to make the government because they basically can tell, like they apparently have the instinct of it. They are intuitive like that, and it's
Hmm.
very interesting to know about all these things in politics. And also, Bihar is supposedly supposed to be one of the most unpredictable political scenes apparently. I don't know much. I'm just saying what
Hmm.
I've read. Beyond that, I feel Chirag Paswan seems like a
Hmm.
genuine guy. He might get the sympathy vote after his father's passed away. You know how that works in politics. And I
Hmm.
beyond that, I feel let's see. Yeah, and like you said, I also think that BJP is like you said, putting the gun on LJP's shoulder and shooting at JDU while being in alliance with
Firing at
JDU and fighting the
JDU,
election.
yeah. Uh,
There
and
is,
the
they are the
reason
most.
that
I'll tell
gains.
you one thing about that, but that just one word comes to my mind when I think of that, and that is cup tea. That's all.
I hope nobody from the BJP listens to this, and there is no repercussions to us.
No, but it's not about the repercussions. They also, I think, understand it. They know politics. They talk about Chanakya. They talk about the Arthashastra or, all these historical political books and all of that. Even Machiavelli's Prince, right? What does it
Hmm.
talk about? It talks about being ruthless in politics, right? You have to blame the other. Like, it's just, they're just following that. So I don't think they'll take it as. So, like I said before the recording stopped, was that.
Huh.
This is going to they're going to take it as a compliment, the word Kapti, because that's what all these political books talk about, and that's all I have to say about this. Shailesh,
Nothing else to add. I think whatever I had to say, I said in the beginning as
yeah, and
well.
I think that's the end of the podcast. And Shailesh, please can you take this away and tell them why we are called 100% sale of journalism ethics? Yeah,
Yes. So the name is a pun or a play on words because Republic World and New Times Now and many other media houses, mainstream media houses, claim that they are doing journalism, and what they are doing is sale of journalism ethics. So we thought it would be a good compliment to us to have the name 100% sale of journalism ethics, but in reality we don't intend or are not doing any of that. We are trying to do a simple podcast which is following all the ethics, and there is definitely no paid viewers involved right now because we don't
because
have
we
the
have no
money for
money.
it.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
hopefully, if you do like our podcast, you will like, subscribe, and share. And do give us a feedback if you in the comment section and tell us if there's something we can improve. Other than that, it's just a fishing technique of putting something. So the title is very sensational, but trying to make it sensational so
not
people come.
fishing. We are not taking any money from you. It is a clickbait.
Yeah, correct. It's kind of that. So, anyways, we hope that you would continue, whoever's listened to our podcast will continue to listen to it. And there are many more episodes coming up in the future as well. And if there's anything you would like to say, please do write it in the comments, and we'll
Yeah.
definitely try to inculcate or try to understand how to go about it. So, anyways, I think that's it for this week, and let's see you next week. Have a good week
On
ahead.
that note, my friends, on that note, my listeners, on that note, my three listeners, our three listeners, we will end this podcast. Thank you from me,
Yes,
Kaushal Bhatia.
and me, Sailesh, as well.
Okay, bye.
Bye.